Imagine for a moment that you're one of two developers who created the game Basketball. It's a mobile game app that took two developers 2 years of hard work to develop, but they were rewarded with over 200,000 downloads in the early stages. I know, if that were you, you'd be feeling pretty... Until you learn that these two developers would later become homeless because they were unable to pay their own rent from their app income. Welcome back, XD Crowd. My name is Jayce, and today we talk pricing strategies. How to price your app to maximize your income so you don't have to spend your life couch surfing. To start off, we need to give a brief history lesson on app economies. So you may have heard of what's called shrink wrap software. Back in the 80s and 90s, that's how software was sold, in a box with shrink wrap plastic around it. That's why it was called shrink wrap software. And their pricing model was the sales up front, anywhere from $40 to thousands of dollars for enterprise software. That was the business model, sales up front, until the digital economy came, and that changed everything. So the next stage in the app economy is what we call today SaaS, software as a service. And this is a monthly subscription model, or sometimes a yearly subscription model, where you pay X number of dollars per month, and included in the actual service software, you get support and upgrades and all that kind of thing. Now, the third stage of the app economy is a sad one. Steve Jobs, some call him a genius or a maniacal madman, he created the first app store in the iOS platform, and he made apps be 99 cents or very, very cheap. And this was great for consumers, right? It was like going to the app store, it was like popcorn, I can just, 99 cents is nothing. It's like candy at a candy store. Buy that, and before you know it, I've spent $30 on my new smartphone. It was an exciting time, and because there wasn't a lot of competition, there was developers making a lot of money, and this is where you came to hear the notion of the new app economy. It's the final frontier of software industry, and it was exciting. The problem is that they were substituting the old shrink wrap software business model into the new app economy model, where you pay up front, and because it was a digital economy and there was almost free distribution, they make them cheap. The problem is that very few independent developers were able to make a reasonable living at that. There were some exceptions, but they are the outliers. The vast majority of independent developers still to this day do not make very much money off the $1 to $4 apps. And that's a problem we're going to talk about today. Now, the current stage of the app economy is largely grappling with what we call the freemium business model. And for those of you who don't know, brief introduction. Freemium business model means that you sell the software product for free, and then there are app upgrades or some sort of what we call in-app purchases, IAPs, within the app. And the vast majority of top grossing apps in both the Google Play Store and the iOS Store are freemium business model apps. Okay, they're free, and then within the game or the task manager app, if it's a productivity app, you can buy upgrades to enhance the software experience. The problem is that a lot of developers are really ruining it for many of us, because they're preying on the addictive capacities of their users, right? So some of the most famous examples of this are, I won't mention the game, I played it myself, and I get really addicted to it. But I would buy a special sword or a special weapon, and it would be a consumable. So I'd buy it for 99 cents, use it once, and it was fantastic. But if I want to use it again, I have to buy it all over again. And that leaves a bad taste in the mouth of many users and developers. So allow me to introduce you to the first chart here from Smashing Magazine. The link to that detailed article is below. Here we go. So at the top left-hand quadrant of this chart, we have the hit apps, right? These are your apps that have very wide appeal. If you have a smartphone, a good chunk of those casual smartphone users are going to find use for these apps. They're relatively cheap, $1 to $4, but they're a one-time hit. So these are your apps like the fart app, the shotgun app, right? These are the kind of apps that you use once or twice. You might share with a friend and talk about it, but there's not a lot of recurring use to that type of thing, but they make decent money because they have extreme wide appeal. Going over to the right, you have your premium hits like Pandora and TomTom. These are very expensive apps usually, and they're for your wealthy users, and they do really well because there's a high charge for those types of things. And they often have in-app purchases, those IAPs that we talked about. And the premium niche apps, these are the types of apps that are very small market, but you can charge a pretty high price for them, and they're less competitive, right? So like yesterday we talked about those educational apps. That's a classic example of a premium niche app. I bought, just recently I bought BrainFit, which is an app that has a multiple different level games to exercise your brain and memory capacity. It goes really easy levels right onto hard levels for adults. Really good app, you guys should check that out. But most apps fall into the fourth category in the bottom left-hand corner, where they have, they're usually $1 to $4. And it says here there's limited appeal, but that's not always the case. It isn't that they have limited appeal. The problem is that they only have one transaction per user. They're not looking into the lifetime value of the user. You guys follow me? We're going to talk about that right. When we talk about the developers for Gasketball, there's a number of different articles I've linked below where it goes into detail about their story, but I'll give you the brief rundown. Very talented developers, and they created a pretty good game. I mean, it wasn't Angry Birds or anything, but it was very good. And they knew the freemium model was really popular. It was the in thing to do. So they assumed that make the game for free to maximize the amount of users that they get early on. And if those users like it, and many did, they'll buy the full unlocked version for $2.99. Seems to be smart, right? No, it was a miserable failure. So much so that these guys just kind of lost what they had and had to move out and live with friends and stuff like that because they just weren't making enough money off what they were doing, and they had to quit and go back and do some freelance work. So here's what we can learn from that. Look at the following chart. After all this research I've been doing about pricing strategies, it's pretty clear to me that we have to do a complete 180 paradigm shift on how we look at pricing. We've been taking an old revenue model and trying to make it fit into the new digital economy model, and it's not working. So look at this chart. It's a great chart. I've linked the source of this chart in the show notes below. You got to check it out. Now, look at the first model. It's saying that to have the pricing model where you pay up front for something, that's best for products that are consumable, that decrease in value over time. So for example, when you go to a fast food restaurant and you want to buy a hamburger and french fries, it's best that that restaurant charges you up front for that cost, because the longer you leave that hamburger and french fries, it diminishes in value. If I buy a hamburger and french fry today, you don't want to eat it tomorrow. You want to eat it right then and there. So moving on to the second business model, we're talking the subscription model, where the product that you buy maintains its value over time. So magazine apps, for example, I subscribe to Canadian Business Magazine, and that's 99 cents per month, for example, and the value is pretty stable. I like the magazine. I don't want to have to go and buy paper and recycle it all the time. So that's a value that's pretty constant for me. That's a suitable business model for that type of media content strategy. Going on to the third strategy, and the one that to me is the most exciting because it was a little bit of an epiphany to me. The really great apps like games that you invest in over time, like Geopolis. I used to play that. It's a desktop app and it's completely free to play, but the more I played it, I started to join clans. When I joined clans, strategy became a bigger part of the game. Diplomacy became a bigger part of the game, and the game became more fun for me. It was more valuable. So I was willing to purchase the in-app upgrades for better ships, better castles, and all that type of stuff. That worked for me. So I played that, I don't know, for like 18 months. I won't tell you how much money I spent on it, but it was well worth the effort for me. And the developers of Geopolis, I think, are doing really well. All right, guys, just a reminder from yesterday, if you go to howtobecomezuk.com and be one of the first 10 people to pay for the group video chat, I will ask for your 3 top goals for your career in the next 18 months, your resume and cover letter if you've applied for jobs recently. I can help you with that cover letter. And any questions that you would like answered, I get a lot of those questions via email. I'd like to try and answer them all in a big group and then show that video to others who can't afford the full price, okay? You need to be okay with being recorded and send me all that information prior so I can do my homework and be prepared to help you over a 90-minute period, okay? Help me out, guys, by liking, subscribe, and comment. It also really helps if you share on your social networks. Thanks, guys. Have a great week. See you Thursday, hopefully. Whoa, woo, 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 woo. Oh, lights out. Damn it.